Settle yourself in a comfortable position. Let the day's noise soften and fade, like the long shadow of the sun sliding down the side of a sandstone wall. Take a slow, steady breath, and let it out just as slowly. In this quiet space, we will drift together into another time, a time when the land itself seemed to breathe, swelling and falling with the rhythm of a great river. We are going to ancient Egypt, not the glossy, gold-leafed version you might see in museums, nor the dramatic tales of gods and tomb robbers. Instead, we will walk along dusty tracks that wind through green fields by the Nile. We will feel the grit of soil on our palms, the weight of a wooden hoe in our hands, and the slow passing of days measured by the rising and falling of water. We will meet a woman who ruled like a king, when by all convention she should not have ruled at all. We will step quietly into a forgotten tomb belonging to someone whose name has slipped from memory, but whose story still whispers from painted walls. And, finally, we will cross the threshold into a palace at Amarna, to see how those in power lived their lives so different and yet so human. The Nile will be our guide. Its banks will be the threads that stitch our journey together. And as we move gently through time, you may find the soft cadence of history beginning to carry you away, like the current of the river itself. So, imagine the air already warming with the first light of dawn, the horizon painted in pale gold. We will begin with the life of an ordinary farmer, whose day begins long before the sun fully rises. Segment 1. Why you wouldn't last a day as an ancient Egyptian farmer. You are standing on the edge of a field, your bare feet pressed into the cool, damp earth. The morning is still, and the only sound is the faint lap of water against the riverbank. The Nile is wide and slow here, its surface a shifting mirror of pink and silver in the dawn light. Your home is a simple one. Walls of mud brick, plastered and painted white to reflect the sun's heat. A flat roof where you sometimes sleep on warm nights. Inside, there are only a few possessions, a reed mat to lie on, a few clay pots for storing grain, and a small altar for offerings to the household gods. The rhythm of your life is tied entirely to the Nile. When it swells with the annual flood, you work alongside your neighbors to divert water into the channels that crisscross the fields. Later, when the waters recede, the soil left behind is dark and rich, ready for planting. The work begins early, before the heat becomes too intense. You carry a wooden hoe, its surface smoothed from years of use. There is no metal blade, only a simple head made from a forked stick, bound tightly with leather straps. The earth is turned by hand, the movements repetitive and slow. Each row is carefully dug, seeds scattered, and then covered with a fine layer of soil. In this world, every harvest matters. There is no great storehouse of food for common people. What you grow feeds your family and fulfills your taxes to the state. The king's officials come at appointed times to measure the yield, and from it, a portion is taken for the temples, for the army, and for the royal household. The system is as regular as the river itself, and there is no choice but to meet its demands. The sun rises higher, and the light sharpens. The heat begins to press down, slow and heavy. You pause only briefly to sip water from a clay jarkle in the early hours, but already warming. Around you, the air is alive with the low hum of insects. Somewhere in the distance, the call of an ibis echoes across the fields. At midday, you rest in the narrow strip of shade cast by a tamarisk tree. The food is simple. A round of coarse bread, perhaps some onions or dried fish if the catch has been good. You chew slowly, not out of luxury, but to make the meal last. In the afternoon, the irrigation channels need tending. The water must be guided carefully to reach the farthest edges of the field, and the small mud walls that divide plots have to be repaired by hand. Each movement is deliberate, steady, there is no rushing here. The work is as patient as the river. When the sun begins to sink, the light turns golden again, the air cooler and softer. The tools are set aside, and you walk back to the village, your feet leaving shallow prints in the dust. Smoke rises from small hearths, carrying the faint scent of baking bread. At home, you sit quietly, mending a piece of netting or shaping a new pot from clay. The day's labor has been long, but it is the same labor your parents did, and their parents before them. It is the rhythm of the land, the rhythm of Egypt itself. And tomorrow it will begin again before the sun is fully risen, and long before the air cools again at night. If you'd like, I can now move on to segment 2. Hatshepsut, the Pharaoh, who wasn't he supposed to rule? Imagine yourself standing in the warm light of a sandstone temple carved high into a cliff face, the air still and quiet except for the faint rustle of dry leaves. This is Deir el-Bahari, where one of ancient Egypt's most remarkable rulers left her mark not just in stone, but in the whispered stories that have traveled across millennia. Hatshepsut was unlike the kings who came before or after her. She was a woman who rose to rule Egypt in a time when tradition expected only men to wear the double crown. Her path to power was not straightforward, nor was it widely accepted by all. But she moved forward with a calm certainty that would forever change the course of Egyptian history. Imagine the young princess, daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose I, growing up amid the grandeur of the royal court. Her early years were filled with lessons in administration, religion, and ritual. When her father died, her stepson, still a child, was named Pharaoh. But Egypt needed a guide, a steady hand. Hatshepsut stepped into that role. She did not claim the throne in the usual way. Instead, she adopted the symbols and regalia of a king: the false beard, the royal headdress, and the titles reserved for men. Her statues show her with broad shoulders and the commanding posture of a ruler, blending the feminine and the masculine into a unique figure of authority. Her reign was marked by peace and prosperity. She launched expeditions to far-off lands, such as the famous journey to the land of Punta, place of fragrant resins and rare goods. The reliefs in her temple depict the ships returning laden with treasures, gold, myrrh, exotic animals. It was a triumph not just of trade, but of diplomacy. Yet beneath the calm surface, political intrigue simmered. Some later rulers sought to erase her memory, defacing statues and chipping away at inscriptions. The reasons remain uncertain, whether jealousy, discomfort with a female ruler, or simple dynastic politics. As you imagine the quiet halls of her mortuary temple, carved into the cliffs overlooking the Nile, notice the long colonnades bathed in soft sunlight, the painted scenes of ritual and daily life, and the solemn statues standing guard. These are the lasting echoes of a woman who ruled with dignity and quiet determination. Hatshepsut's story reminds us that history is never as simple as it seems. Her reign is a study in resilience, subtle power, and the complexities of identity in a world bound by tradition. As the sun slowly sinks beyond the horizon of this ancient land, let your thoughts rest on the silent stone and the enduring river, the carriers of memory and time. The tomb of the unnamed scribe. Imagine walking slowly through a quiet, sun-dappled courtyard just beyond the bustling city of Thebes. The air warm and still, thick with the scent of dry earth and blooming acacia trees. Hidden away from the grandeur of the pharaoh's tombs is a modest burial place, belonging not to a king or queen, but to someone far less known, an unnamed scribe. In ancient Egypt, scribes were the keepers of knowledge and recorders of life. They were the silent architects behind the smooth running of temples, administrations, and the vast machinery of the state. Yet, for all their importance, many scribes lived and died without fanfare, their names lost to the shifting sands of time. This particular tomb, uncovered by archaeologists in the early 20th century, is a quiet mystery. The walls are adorned with delicate paintings depicting scenes of daily life, offerings of bread and beer, figures in conversation, and the tools of a scribe's trade-reed brushes, ink pots, and papyrus scrolls. But the tomb's occupant is never named. No grand titles or royal lineage mark the entrance. Instead, the images tell a story of a man whose life was woven deeply into the fabric of his community. Imagine the scribe's days, seated cross-legged on the ground, eyes scanning lines of hieroglyphs, hands moving carefully as symbols were traced in black ink. His world was one of thought and detail, far removed from the physical toil of farmers or builders. Yet his work was no less vital. The letters he penned ensured the grain was counted, the laws enforced, and the stories preserved. Archaeologists have debated who this man might have been. Was he a modest servant of the temple, quietly faithful and diligent, or a scholar whose wisdom shaped the course of events behind closed doors? The absence of a name invites us to wonder, to fill the silence with our own quiet imaginings. As you picture the tomb's calm interior, notice how the soft hues of ochre and lapis lazuli shimmer faintly in the fading light. The painted figures seem to move gently in the half-dark, offering sustenance for the journey beyond. This tomb reminds us that history is not only made by kings and queens, but also by the unseen hands who kept the world turning. The scribe's anonymity is a gentle echo, a whisper from the past, inviting us to remember the quiet lives that shaped ancient Egypt's enduring story. Let the stillness of this place wash over you, and as your thoughts drift among the painted scenes, prepare to step next into the grander, more opulent world of Egypt's royal palace at Amarna. Inside the palace at Amarna, imagine yourself stepping through the grand entrance of a palace, bathed in the golden light of a late afternoon sun. The air is warm but softened by gentle breezes carrying the faint fragrance of jasmine and cedarwood. You have arrived at Amarna, a city unlike any other in ancient Egypt, a place born of bold vision and unusual change. This palace was built by Pharaoh Akhenaten, a ruler who dared to challenge centuries of tradition. Here, the walls tell stories of a new way of life, one centered on the worship of the sun disk, Aton, and marked by art and architecture that broke with the old forms. Inside, the rooms are spacious and airy, painted with scenes of royal family life. You see Akhenaten himself, seated beside his queen, Nefertiti, their faces serene, almost otherworldly in their elongated features. Their children play nearby, caught in moments of tenderness, enjoy a rare glimpse into the private life of ancient royalty. The furnishings are simple yet elegant: low stools, tables carved from fine woods, cushions embroidered with intricate patterns, light filters through latticed windows, casting soft shadows that dance slowly on the polished floors. Servants move quietly, attending to daily needs, bringing trays of fresh fruit, bowls of thick honey, and jars of cool water infused with herbs. The air carries a soft hum of conversation, the murmur of advisers, and the gentle footsteps of courtiers. Yet, beneath this calm surface lies a world of subtle power plays and shifting alliances. Akhenaten's religious revolution unsettled many. Temples were closed, old gods set aside, and the capital uprooted. The palace at Amarna became not just a home, but a statement, a symbol of change, innovation, and tension. Imagine the evenings here, when the royal family gathers on terraces to watch the sun sink slowly into the desert horizon. The sky painted in soft shades of rose and lavender. The light fades gently, and with it, the day's concerns soften into quiet reflection. The palace at Amarna invites us to ponder the balance between tradition and change, the private and the political, the human and the divine. As your thoughts linger on these painted walls and sunlit halls, the river Nile flows steadily on beyond the city, timeless and serene. That completes the 4 segments of the script. Would you like me to craft a calming closing conclusion now, to gently wrap up the entire 2-hour journey? As our journey along the banks of the Nile draws to a close, allow yourself to rest in the soft embrace of time gone by. From the steady, patient labor of the farmer tending his fields beneath the endless sun, to the quiet strength of Hatshepsut, who shaped her world with calm resolve, we have traced the threads of ancient lives woven deeply into the fabric of Egypt's history. We paused in the gentle silence of the unnamed scribe's tomb, where stories are preserved not in grand monuments, but in quiet devotion and unseen hands. And finally, we entered the tranquil halls of Amarna's palace, where light and shadow play upon walls that witnessed both profound change and everyday moments of family and reflection. Each step of this journey has been a step into a world both distant and familiar, where human hopes, struggles, and rhythms unfold beneath the same sun and stars that watch over us today. Now, as you lie still, feel the steady pulse of the river flowing through time, carrying away the day's cares and quieting the mind. Let the gentle ebb and flow of history soothe you, like the soft rustle of palm leaves in a warm evening breeze. With each breath, sink deeper into calm, letting the stories fade gently into dreams. The past is at rest, and so can you be. Good night.